Hi everybody, welcome to session 6.2. In this session, we're going to look at linking files, external references. Basically, sounds complicated, it's extremely simple, and we'll just go through it quickly. If you know how to link between worksheets in the same workbook, this should be absolutely no problem. So let's take a look. Here I have my sheet 1, it has a bunch of numbers and dates on it. On my sheet 2, all I have to do is press equals, go back to sheet 1, click on the cell, and you'll notice it will say equals sheet 1 exclamation point A1. So basically I'm telling sheet 2, go to A1 and grab a cell A1. I hit enter and it brings over Monday. I could then drag it out. It will copy exactly what's on sheet 1 onto sheet 2. Right? You'll notice here it looks a little different because of the number of decimal places. On the other sheet, I have them limited like this. Okay, but essentially I get the same information. Apparently my sheet ends on Wednesday. I could drag it over so I get Saturday, and the last one is going to show up as zeros because I actually copied nothing. It was just copying over this sheet. So again, really in every one of these cells, they're referenced, they just copy from the other sheet. So for example, if I change the first number to a 7, it will change on the second sheet because all it's doing is copying over whatever number is in sheet 1. So that's how we do it with sheets. Now, if we want to pull data from another file, it can get a little complicated, and we'll look at a couple ways to do that. So the idea is that if we want to link workbooks together, ideally on your computer, you'd have all these files in the same folder, because if you don't, or you don't have them on the same computer, the file won't work. We're going to ask Excel, instead of going to this sheet and saying pull up cell, in this case A2, we're going to say go to a different file and pull up cell A2. So let's see how that works. Now I have everything saved in this file on the right is called session62, and the file on the left is called session622. It's important that there's no missing spaces, and there's a few characters you're not allowed to put into the name in order for this to work. Okay, so I'm going to follow the reference at the bottom of page 350, which tells me I put in equals, and then I put in a square bracket, and I type the name of the file that I want to reference from. So in our case, it's session62.sxlsx, square bracket. Okay, the next part is the worksheet name. So in our case, I'm going to put in sheet 1 and an exclamation point. Remember, if it has a space in it, we have to use quotes. And then we put in the cell range, and I'm going to put in A1. Okay, so I'll hit enter, and it's going to go over and grab Monday. Now these are two totally different files, right? In my Windows folder, you'll see here, I have session62 and session622 are two different files, but they're sitting in the same folder. So here, if I drag out, it's going to grab the information from this file here on the right. Again, we have the same problem as we did a second ago with the number of decimals. I'd want to go in and change this. But besides that, it's actually going to tell me up here where it's coming from. And if I go into a particular cell, it will tell me where the other sheet is located. Okay, but here's something you have to be aware of. Now, because this sheet is pulling information from this stored file, if I update this file, let's say I turn this to an 8, it's not going to update here because I first have to save this file and then reopen this one, and then it will copy from the information from the file as it was saved. If I don't have that information, then they don't update automatically. Okay, so that's a downside of this. But if one sheet has a table of information which basically doesn't change, and for whatever reason, I don't want to put that as another sheet at the bottom, I'm able to externally link to it by using that format, right? So in this case, it converted it automatically for me with the location of where it is on my computer. But really, all I need is this part in the square brackets, and that would find the other sheet because they're in the same folder. Otherwise, I would need the whole computer reference where it is sitting on my computer. it would say what sheet it's in, and it would tell me what cell I want. I messed it up, but that's the idea. Okay, so this is how you do the example figure 6.14 on page 350. Okay, so we're also able to click on View and choose where it says Arrange All, New Window, etc. And we're able to arrange the windows to either be side by side, tiled, etc. Okay, so that gives you a bunch of different options. Now, we're also going to, now remember, these are two different files, these two windows. These two windows are actually different files, they're different workbooks. But we can also create something called New Window. So I'm going to press where it says New Window, and it's going to open a copy of the window. But you'll notice up here it now says section 62 XLSX1, and here it says section 62 XLSX2. So let's move this out of the way for a second, our other file. Now these two views are of the exact same file, right? So for example, if I change a number here, it will change the number in the corresponding, it's the exact same file. But what this allows you to do is I could be on a different sheet. See, it's still going to be on sheet 3 here, but up here I'm able to type other data in and then refer back to the first sheet. So I could basically see both at the same time. And this could be really useful when I'm trying to look at different sources of data and I don't constantly have to flip back and forth between sheets. Okay, same concept here. If you use Arrange Window, you could go back and forth between different files, right? And you'll notice that I closed the view and it just automatically closed even though I still have my data saved when I was open on the other window. Okay, like you'll see from the example on page 356 in figure 6.17, we could do the same thing with multiple references. Basically, instead of having each one refer only to one particular file, in this case it's session 6.2, we could add the value of this one item, press plus, and then do the same thing, put in a square bracket, put in the name of a different Excel file, and then grab yet another variable from somewhere else, right? So it's possible to have multiples just like we did in a previous session where we added multiple sheet values together using ranges. We could do the same thing with multiple workbooks in different files. Okay, so one correction on what I told you before. If it knows where the files are properly, and it then will automatically update from one file to the next. So here, let's change, for example, the whole first column to 8s. Okay, it will change here as well. I just had to update the reference to make sure that it found the file in the right spot. You'll notice that some of them had the whole computer name of where the file was stored. Because of that, it was having difficulty understanding what file was supposed to update. But now that I have them both synced to the same spot, they are updating each other even though they're in different files. So you could read about how to do that with linked workbooks on page 360 and see that example. You could also do the same thing when you save the file, as you can see on page 362 when the file is closed, right? So you get this update option, which you can see on page 363, and that will allow you to update those links. Okay, and there's also a way to update this manually. Let's click on, we'll go back to our, this is session 622, the copied data file. And let's take a look under data and where it says edit links. Okay, so edit links will say that this workbook is linked to session 6.2 XLSX, which is the file over here that I have in the background. All right, and I'm able to update values, change source, open source, break link, etc. Right? I can also press where it says refresh all, and that will go and automatically go and grab it. If for some reason they're not linked properly, it will pop up with an error box telling me that there's a problem in linking the two sheets together. But besides that, if I go into here, I'm able to update, change the source, etc. This is particularly important if I move the sheet that it's getting information from, because then it won't know where to find the values, right? So this would allow me to automatically go and grab the two of them together. Okay, so that basically wraps up 6.2, and next in 6.3, we'll take a look at templates and hyperlinks.